Alright, so this happened last weekend, and I still feel like I got hit by a truck. I, 34M, went to watch my younger brother, Jake, 29M, run a big marathon in our city. He's one of those people who actually enjoys running, wakes up at 5 a.m. to jog like a maniac, eats quinoa voluntarily, all that. Me? I get winded climbing stairs. But he's my brother, and I figured I'd show up to support him. Plus, my wife, Sarah, 32F, was really excited to come too. She's always been into fitness, so she and Jake got along great. Maybe a little too great, now that I think about it. Anyway, I got up early, grabbed coffee, and made my way to the race. It was packed, thousands of people, crazy energy, everyone either stretching or looking like they regretted signing up. I found a good spot near the finish line, waiting for Jake to come through. Sarah was supposed to meet me there after grabbing breakfast with a friend. But that's when things started feeling off. So, I'm standing there, sipping my coffee, scrolling through my phone, just passing the time. The race was already underway, and people were trickling in past the finish line. Lots of cheering, some exhausted runners collapsing, the usual marathon chaos. I checked my phone again, no texts from Sarah. She was supposed to meet me here by now. I shot her a quick "where you at" text and went back to watching the race. A few minutes later, I spotted Jake in the distance. He was coming in fast, looking strong. I got my phone out to record his finish. But then I saw something weird. He wasn't alone. He was running with someone. And not just anyone, Sarah. At first, my brain didn't register it. I mean, why the hell would she be running? She didn't sign up for the marathon. She was supposed to be at breakfast. But there she was, right next to Jake, keeping pace with him, both of them smiling like this was some kind of moment. I almost dropped my coffee. I stood there, frozen, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. Sarah was supposed to be eating overpriced avocado toast with her friend, not running the last leg of a marathon with my damn brother. Jake and Sarah crossed the finish line together, arms pumping, grinning like they just won the Olympics. And then, this part still makes me want to throw up, she threw her arms around him. Not just a quick "congrats, bro" hug. No, this was an intimate hug. The kind you give someone when you're alone, not when you're standing in front of a whole crowd, including your husband. I didn't even realize I was gripping my coffee so hard until the lid popped off and scalding hot liquid splashed onto my hand. Didn't feel a thing. I was too busy watching my wife tuck a loose strand of hair behind Jake's ear, laughing at something he said. I must have looked insane standing there, eyes wide, coffee dripping from my fingers, because some old guy next to me gave me a "you good, man?" look. No, I was not good. I didn't confront them right away. I don't know why, I just felt like I was watching something I wasn't supposed to see, like I had stumbled into a movie scene that was meant to play out behind my back. Jake and Sarah were standing close, still catching their breath, talking in that way people do when they're in their own little world. She was beaming, giddy, like she'd just had the best experience of her life. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't some last-minute decision where she saw Jake struggling and decided to join him. No, this had been planned. She had the right running gear. She wasn't sweaty like someone who had just sprinted in out of nowhere, she looked prepared, fresh, excited. I checked my phone again. No texts. No missed calls. Nothing. She hadn't even thought to let me know. The roar of the crowd felt distant, muffled, like I was underwater. My stomach twisted into knots. I felt a mix of dread, humiliation, and something else I didn't want to name yet. I had to get closer. I had to hear what they were saying. I pushed through the crowd, my heart hammering in my chest. My feet felt like they weren't even touching the ground, I was just moving on autopilot. Jake and Sarah were standing near the water station, laughing, stretching, totally in their own world. I hung back just enough to hear them without them noticing me. "Can't believe we pulled that off," Sarah was saying, breathless but excited. "I told you we could do it," Jake replied, grinning. "You crushed it. I'm proud of you." Sarah nudged him playfully. "Yeah, well, someone was supposed to take it easy on me, but you just had to go full beast mode. Jake chuckled. I wanted you to cross the line with me. Figured we should finish together. That was it. That was the moment I felt something inside me snap. I wasn't just reading too much into this. This wasn't just weirdly close sibling-in-law bonding. This was something else. Something I wasn't supposed to hear. And the worst part? I still hadn't even moved yet. I was just standing there, frozen, watching my wife and my brother have a moment while her actual husband, was just an afterthought. Then, like clockwork, Sarah finally pulled out her phone. I watched as she typed something and then. BZZZT. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I already knew what it was before I even looked. A text from Sarah, "Hey babe. Just got here. Where are you?" My blood went ice cold. I stared at my phone, my grip tightening like I could crush the damn thing. Just got here? Just now? After running a whole race with my brother? After laughing and celebrating like this was some kind of couples retreat? I took a slow, deep breath, forcing myself not to do something stupid. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Was this just running, or was it something more? I didn't respond to her text. Instead, I walked straight toward them. Sarah noticed me first. Her face lit up like nothing was wrong, like she wasn't just caught red-handed in whatever the hell this was. "Hey, babe," she called out, jogging over and wrapping her arms around me. She smelled like sweat, coconut sunscreen, and betrayal. Jake followed, looking just awkward enough to confirm my suspicions but not awkward enough to seem guilty. He clapped me on the shoulder. "Dude, you just missed it. Sarah ran the last few miles with me." I forced out a laugh. Yeah, I saw." Sarah pulled back, smiling. It was so last minute. I wasn't planning to, but I got so caught up in the energy, and Jake said I should just go for it. So I did. She said it like it was no big deal. Like she hadn't lied to me just 5 minutes ago. I looked between them. Jake shifted uncomfortably. Sarah was still playing the "nothing weird is happening" card. And me? I was done pretending this was fine. I forced a smile, nodding along like I bought their story. Wow, last minute, huh? That's wild. Sarah grinned, completely oblivious to the fact that I was about 2 seconds away from losing my mind. Yeah. It was insane. I didn't even think I could keep up, but Jake really pushed me. Jake gave a little shrug, trying to play it cool. She did great. I told her she should train for a full marathon. I let out a small chuckle, shaking my head. Man, that's crazy. Especially since you told me this morning you were just getting breakfast. The words hung in the air for half a second too long. Sarah blinked. Oh. Yeah, well, I was going to, but then I ran into Jake near the starting area, and I don't know, I just got caught up in the excitement. Huh, I said, keeping my voice casual. Where'd you run into him? She hesitated. Jake answered for her. Near the water station by the park entrance. That was a mistake. Because I had been at the park entrance before the race started, and Jake had been nowhere near it. Sarah must have realized they weren't on the same page because she jumped in. Yeah. I mean, not right at the entrance, more like near that big tree close to the starting area. Oh, I nodded, pretending to buy it. Makes sense. It did not make sense. I watched them both closely. Jake looked like he wanted to get the hell out of this conversation. Sarah was still smiling, but it was thinner now, more forced. They were lying. I just didn't know how deep it went yet. At this point, I wasn't just suspicious, I knew something was off. The way they fumbled their story, the way Jake kept shifting uncomfortably, the way Sarah smiled too much, like she was trying to cover something up. I decided to push a little harder. That's wild, I said, shaking my head like I was just an amazed, clueless husband. So, how many miles did you end up running, Sarah? She hesitated, just for a second. Maybe 5? 6? I wasn't really counting. Jake cleared his throat. More like 7, actually. She joined me around mile 19. Oh, really? I raised an eyebrow. Ha! And you just jumped in? No bib, no registration, nothing? Sarah laughed, waving it off. Yeah, I mean, they don't really check that stuff. People hop in all the time. Jake nodded a little too fast. Yeah, no big deal. I pretended to think about it. Weird, because I heard security was being really strict about bandit runners this year. A couple of people even got pulled off the course. Sarah blinked. Oh, well. I mean, I didn't see any security. Guess you got lucky then, I said, staring straight at her. Her smile faltered, just a little. Jake scratched the back of his head. Hey, I should probably go grab my stuff from bag check. Of course he wanted to leave. The walls were closing in. Sarah jumped on the excuse immediately. Yeah. I need water. So dehydrated. I let them go. For now. Because at this point, I wasn't just curious anymore. I needed proof. I let them walk away, but my mind was already working overtime. If they were lying about this, what else were they lying about? And more importantly, how long had I been an idiot? I wasn't about to go full psycho and start tailing them through the crowd, but I did need answers. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I went through Sarah's social media. I pulled up her Instagram first, nothing. Just her usual motivational quotes and gym selfies. But then I checked her stories. And there it was. A short clip, posted 2 hours ago, of Sarah and Jake before the race, standing together, stretching, laughing. The caption? Pre-race prep with my favorite running partner. Flexed biceps, medium skin tone, man running, woman running. My stomach dropped. This wasn't last minute. This wasn't spontaneous. This was planned. I checked the timestamp again. The post had gone up at 6:47 a.m. Which meant, while I was waking up and grabbing coffee, Sarah was already with Jake, already in on it. And then, the final nail in the coffin, one of her friends had replied to the story. LOL, you finally told him? Eyes. Told me what? I stared at the screen, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I needed more. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. My hands were shaking as I stared at that message. LOL, you finally told him? Eyes. Told me what? I clicked on the reply thread, but of course, it was in her DMs, private. Locked away. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. My first instinct was to march over to Sarah and demand answers, but no, if I played this wrong, she'd just gaslight me, twist the story, make me feel crazy. I needed real proof. I opened her texts. Yeah, I know it's a violation of privacy, whatever. But guess what? Lying to your husband is also a violation of privacy. And right now, I wasn't feeling particularly moral. I scrolled past messages with her mom, some work texts, random group chats, and then I saw it. A conversation with Jake. And that's when my stomach dropped all the way to hell. Jake, can't believe we actually pulled this off. Sarah, I know. I was so nervous at first, but once we got going, it just felt right. Jake, told you it would. We were meant to do this together. Sarah, I just hope he understands. It's a big change. Jake, he'll come around. Eventually. I couldn't breathe. A big change? What big change? What the hell were they talking about? At this point, my vision was tunneling. I had two choices: I could sit here, spiraling, or I could end this right now. So I turned on my heels and went looking for them. I didn't think. I didn't stop to process anything. All I knew was that I needed to confront Sarah and Jake right now. I found them at the bag check area. Sarah was sipping from a water bottle, chatting with some friends, looking totally at ease. Jake was fiddling with his phone, avoiding eye contact. My heart was hammering in my chest as I walked up to them, each step feeling like it was getting louder and louder. "Sarah," I said, my voice tight. She turned around, smiling. "Hey, babe. Did you?" "Don't hey babe me," I cut her off. "What's going on?" Her smile faltered for just a second, but she quickly recovered. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the text conversation. "The one with Jake. The one where they talked about pulling it off." Her face drained of color. "Sarah," I said, my voice shaking now, "what the hell is this?" Jake shifted uncomfortably. "Look, man," I shot him a glare. "Shut up, Jake. This is between me and her." Sarah tried to take the phone from me, but I yanked it away. "What's a big change? What did you mean by that?" She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally said, "It's not what you think." "Oh really?" I snapped, finally letting the anger loose. "Then what the hell is it? You've been lying to me. You've been sneaking around with him." "I haven't been sneaking around," Sarah shot back, voice rising. "It's just complicated." I didn't let her finish. "No. Don't tell me it's complicated, Sarah. I've been married to you for almost 7 years. If something's going on, I have the right to know." Jake stepped forward, hands raised. "Look, man, I'm sorry. But you've gotta understand." "No. I don't understand," I snapped. "I don't get it. And I don't think I ever will." The words hung in the air between us, thick with tension. For the first time in my life, I felt like I didn't know either of them. For a long moment, no one spoke. Sarah stood there, looking like a deer caught in headlights, and Jake was just shifting uncomfortably, looking like he'd rather be anywhere but here. I wasn't sure what I was waiting for, whether Sarah would come clean or try to twist her way out of it again. But then, slowly, she seemed to break. "All right," she sighed, rubbing her forehead. "You want the truth? Fine. Here it is." I wasn't sure I was ready for whatever was coming next. "Jake and we've been seeing each other," she said, her voice quieter now, almost like she was trying to make herself small. My stomach twisted again, harder this time. "What? Not just the race, okay? It's been going on for a while. We've been having an affair." I couldn't breathe. I honestly thought I was going to collapse right there. I had heard the words, but they didn't sink in. Jake opened his mouth like he was going to say something, but I wasn't interested. I didn't need his explanation. This wasn't about him. This is why? I finally managed to choke out. "This is what's been going on behind my back." Sarah's eyes welled up with tears, but I didn't feel sorry for her. "I couldn't. I never wanted to hurt you. I really didn't. But I couldn't help it. Jake and we just clicked. And it didn't happen overnight. It just happened." I stepped back, my hands trembling, heart racing. "How long?" She hesitated. "A few months." "A few months?" I repeated, feeling like I was losing my mind. "A few months? You've been doing this behind my back for months, Sarah?" She nodded, silent, wiping her tears. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't even stand the thought of being in the same space as her anymore. This is a nightmare," I whispered. I turned away, barely holding myself together, as the weight of everything crashed down on me. It was like all the years of our marriage, the trust one thought we'd built, just shattered in an instant. The betrayal was suffocating, like I couldn't catch my breath. "Please, can we talk about this?" Sarah's voice cracked behind me. "I never wanted to hurt you." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Every word felt like a knife. She didn't want to hurt me? Then why the hell did she lie to my face? Why didn't she just tell me instead of making me feel like a fool? I walked away without another word. I didn't want to hear her excuses, her apologies. I needed air. I needed space. I didn't know where to go, what to do, but I had to get out of there. I headed to the parking lot, my mind racing. I had no idea how I was supposed to move forward from this. How do you just go back to your normal life after this level of betrayal? How could I ever trust her again? When I got to my car, I stood there for a long moment, hands gripping the door, trying to breathe. Trying to wrap my mind around the fact that my wife and my brother had been lying to me, that everything I thought I knew was a lie. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket, and I already knew who it was. It was Sarah. But I couldn't bring myself to look at it. The drive home was a blur. I don't remember much of it, just the same streets, the same city I lived in for years, but everything felt different. It was like I was walking through a fog, just going through the motions, not really here. I kept seeing flashes in my mind, Jake and Sarah at the race, laughing together, touching in that intimate way that I'd never seen before. I thought of every time I trusted her, every small moment where I thought our relationship was solid, only for it to be crushed by one phone call, one message, one damn truth. By the time I got home, it felt like the walls were closing in. I didn't want to go inside. I didn't want to face her, face any of it. But I had to. I couldn't run forever. I walked in, and there she was, sitting on the couch, looking at me with those wide eyes that still looked like they wanted me to comfort her. But I couldn't. You really thought I wouldn't find out, huh? I said, my voice cold. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She didn't have anything left to say. I need time, I told her, my voice breaking just a little. I don't know what's going to happen with us, but right now, I need to be alone. I can't even look at you right now. She nodded silently, her eyes filled with guilt and shame. But it didn't matter. What was done was done. I didn't know where things would go from here. Could I ever trust her again? Could I ever even look at Jake the same way? I didn't have those answers. All I knew was that I needed space. Space to think. To process. To figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with my life now. The days that followed were a blur of emotions: anger, sadness, frustration, confusion. I kept replaying the whole mess in my head, trying to make sense of everything. Could I ever forgive Sarah? Could I ever look at Jake the same way again? Could I even trust anyone again? I took time off work, needing to figure things out. I wasn't ready to talk to Sarah just yet. She gave me space, which I appreciated, but it didn't make the pain any easier to bear. Eventually, I spoke to a therapist, trying to get a clearer picture of where my head was at. It wasn't easy. There were days where I wanted to just scream, to lash out, to destroy everything in my path. But through it all, one thing became clear: I had to heal. The hardest part wasn't the betrayal itself, it was the feeling of being stupid. I felt like I should have known, like I should have seen it coming. The signs were there, weren't they? The lies, the secrecy, the way they acted like everything was fine while it clearly wasn't. I had to make a choice: stay and try to rebuild, or walk away and never look back. In the end, I realized something important. The person I needed to forgive most wasn't just Sarah or Jake, it was myself. I had to stop blaming myself for their actions. I wasn't the one who betrayed the trust. I wasn't the one who lied. I wasn't the one who threw everything away. I don't know what will happen between Sarah and me. I'm still figuring that out. But I'm learning to trust myself again, to take things one day at a time, and to know that it's okay to put my own needs first. To anyone reading this who's been through something like this, my advice is simple: don't let someone else's actions define your worth. You can rebuild. It's going to hurt like hell, but you will find a way forward. You deserve better than the lies. You deserve the truth.